Today we're taking booze in the kitchen and making Orgeat. For this recipe, you're going to need a large measuring cup, a small measuring cup, a measuring spoon, a large strainer, a fine mesh strainer, a funnel, a pan, a large pot, a mixing bowl, a cutting board, a knife, a wooden spoon, bottles, and optionally a kitchen scale and a food processor. The ingredients are almonds, sugar, water, and optionally orange flower water and rose water, and also optionally vodka as a preservative. This syrup was originally a barley almond mixture with a dominantly almond flavor. Modern recipes have jettisoned the barley and focused solely on the almond. The result is an exciting syrup that's a key component to many drinks, particularly tiki drinks like the Mai Tai. It's a little labor intensive, but the result is worth it. There are other recipes out there, and they usually consist of making a highly sweetened almond milk. Feel free to follow one of those recipes if that's what floats your boat. But as always, my favorite recipe is the one from the 12-Bottle Bar by Leslie and David Solmonson. They take the slightly different approach of toasting and steeping to extract the almond flavor. That's why it looks less milky than some other orgeats. But when shaken in a cocktail, it still comes out looking milky. As they put it in their book, the 12-Bottle Bar recipe errs on the side of not too sweet, not too alcoholic. And their recipe calls for no booze. I added a little vodka to help extend the shelf life, but you can leave it out if you prefer. As for the rose water and orange flower water, it won't be the end of the world if you can't add them to the syrup, but they'll help brighten it up and add dimension to it. So if you can, it'll be worth the effort to get some, for this recipe and others like grenadine. Also, because you use so little, each bottle will virtually last forever, which will make it worth the investment. You want to use raw almonds, preferably blanched. The Solmonsons recommend using Marconas, a Spanish variety of almond. And now that I've made it that way, I can wholeheartedly recommend them as well. We're shooting for about 6 cups, or about 1.5 liters of final orgeat in this recipe. That way you'll have plenty of syrup, and the juice will be worth the squeeze. Let's start by measuring out the almonds. Place a measuring cup on your scale and tare it. Pour out 8 ounces by weight, or about 227 grams of almonds. If you don't have a scale and just want to eyeball it in a measuring cup, that's about 10 ounces, or 300 milliliters by volume. Next, we're going to toast the almonds. Turn on the stove and set it to medium-low heat. Add your almonds. Stir and toss them regularly to keep them from burning. You'll want to toast them for about 6 to 8 minutes. If you do burn any of them, just pull those ones out. Don't let them become part of the syrup. Then transfer them to a mixing bowl and let them cool down. Once they've cooled, chop most of the toasted almonds in batches until you have enough to produce 1 cup, or 237 milliliters. Add the chopped almonds to your pot. Take the remaining almonds and grind them up in a food processor. Give them a few pulses until they're ground into a powdery meal. If you don't have a food processor, chop the rest of your almonds and put them in a plastic bag. Then gently crush them with a rolling pin. Once you have your almond meal, you'll need to measure out half a cup, or 118 milliliters. You'll probably have some left over. Just save it for a yogurt topping or something. Add the half cup of almond meal to the pot. Measure out 8 cups of sugar. Add that to the pot. With this measuring cup, that's 2 pours. Then measure out 4 cups of water. Add that to the pot. That way you'll have a 2-to-1 rich simple syrup with almonds. Give it a good stir. Fire up the stove. Turn it to high heat, and stir it occasionally in the beginning to keep things from sticking to the bottom of the pot. Leave it on high heat for about 10 minutes, or until it comes to a boil. Then kill the heat and stir it again. Cover it with the lid ajar enough for the steam to escape. Let that sit for 12 hours. After it's steeped, strain out the bigger solids with the large strainer. Measure out a 1/4 teaspoon or a little over a milliliter of rose water. Add that to your syrup. Measure out a 1/4 teaspoon or a little over a milliliter of orange flower water. Add that to the syrup. And to help preserve the syrup, measure out 1.5 ounces or 45 milliliters of vodka. Add that to the syrup. Then stir them in really well. I like to pour some of the syrup into a measuring cup before bottling it so that it doesn't end up all over the counter. When you go to bottle it, pop in a funnel and strain it again with a fine mesh strainer. The fine strainer will help catch some of those little bits of almond meal. Then pop on your top and that one's good to go. Because there's so much syrup here, it's going to take a second bottle to contain it. So fine strain this one in stages as well. That way there's a larger 1 liter bottle and a smaller 500 milliliter bottle. For the larger bottle, it's best to have a top with an airtight seal, and you're going to want to store both of them in the fridge. And there it is, homemade Orgeat. Enjoy. Click here for more videos. Be sure to subscribe and check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For links, more info, and the printed recipe, check out the description below.